Hello everyone, this is Sam Wong again. Today is August 22nd. I'm sure, hope everyone in a very strong position stock market right now. Since the Liberation Day, the market has tested new high. In many cases, however, August is the month with more uncertainty and normally coming off from the summer bullish point. Picking up from July was rally until really second week of August. You can look at the S&P 500 as an example. You see that coming in July is a little bit deeper down, but then you coming back up again till the second week in August at this point of a new testing new highs. The market has pulled back, which probably due to profit ticketing and also a couple of reporting concern. But in Friday, however, Powell came out to basically imply that interest rate very likely to be reduced in September, which is next month. The market, all the indices will actually rebound very significantly. And a lot of individual stock actually were very good. Just to give you an example, we're looking at this graph. At the beginning of the year on S&P 500, and what if you compare to now, which is what in on Friday, 6466.91, it will still have 10% higher of the of year up to this point. But if you look at the Liberation Day, where in April, and compared to the rebound, which is where we are at, so that's actually about 22.5% of return. And if there's still analysts are very optimistic at this point and thinking S&P will go up to 6,600, and some were actually predicted to 6,900 at end of the year. So actually, we're not very far from those points that was talking about 3.7%. And if you look at the market up 100 points on Friday alone, 1.7%. So if next week opening is still very strong and solid and pushing and testing another high, 6,600 is very, very likely. 6,900 is hard to tell because in my opinion, I predicted the market would dip back first before you pull back another higher and testing for momentum. So, and again, for those who know me and follow me for a period of time, thank you very much. And I'm more looking at teaching investor on looking at long-term versus short-term investing. For short-term, when the market that giving you a return of 20%, you'll be considered of really selling and buying back a lower price. In that premises in mind, I'm just trying to give you a look back now on some of the stock I've recommended for those who have been following me since the beginning when I started. At the very beginning, if you don't have any premises understanding of stock markets and the fundamentals, I encourage you to go back to the very beginning when I first started my dealing pandemic. I started my video live. Actually, that was after I laid off from a contracting role in a Coke company. It was actually my brother who inspired me to really do a YouTube and demonstrating and share my knowledge in the finance and experience in stock market for years. So I hope you will find myself more neutral, unlike the other people. I don't just talk about how much money I make and whatever. I will say, I lost money on this, it was a mistake, or how will we look at it now you're looking back from the past. So that way we are all sharing what we know and how can we grow better as a smarter and wiser investor. I like this stock HYLN and really, really heavily pulled it. Part of it, again, go back to my previous videos, you'll find that more and more institutional investors will invest in this stock. The CEO is actually came from Shell, who is an engineer that truly believed in his innovations, but Shell didn't buy into and gave him funding. So then he just decided to go out on his own and have his own company. And then they get funding through different ways, and this is where they are. They start a high point of $52, in the way back a few years ago, and currently have been $4.10. The low end was really have 50 cents in this stock. So a lot of stock who survived from bankruptcy actually you'll find that if the new innovation wouldn't have a breakthrough and have a lot of institutional investors buy into the shares, the stock actually potentially will really go to 10 times higher. NVIDIA is a good example, as in the past I've shared with y'all. And then again, the stock has reached $1.81 a month ago and dipped slowly back down to $1.40 on August 1st, which is this line. So if you hear my video at the point I was recommending buying in that. So in 10 days, movement probably ran up 14%, which is great. And it dipped at $1.53 again. This time a little bit more volatility. That's why it was really perfect candidate for short-term investing. Although I still look through it in long-term, this stock will really go back to at least $10 higher. And with the news driving overall market strength, including small cap, the stock had drove back to $1.76. That's closer with. Again, this stock had, if you look at the return in perspective, it beat the index with a 22% I share with you. And in less than a month, you actually made 25% return if you heard my video and then you buy some stock, right? I think you make this 25% is a good selling point now. Although I'm just still looking at a next tipping point is $1.81, and then you reach $2 and over. Again, that's my target price for the longer run, and hopefully you will really have a strength to push it with good news and more sales and revenue, and eventually to turn around to profitability. Then you will get them back to $4 and more, $5 and no problem if that's just where they get down to. The second piece is I want to share with you United Airlines. Again, when April Liberation Day, they talk about potential recessions, how U.S. Need to trouble about their bond market and how much debt they have in place. The tariffs wasn't very popular. It's going to hurt U.S. economy and the world globally. It turns out that it may not be as bad as you think, but maybe that's just Trump's strategy. Who knows? Even people don't really like about it and appreciate that. Similar to other stock, the stock went very strong after Liberation Day around April 8th and 11th, that time frame. If you went back to my previous email, you heard me to recommend buying that $63 in April. So fair enough, the stock was possibly impacted by the summer travel and went up to the $80 beginning of June. You can see that $85 on August 1st. And I actually I saw half of it at that point. And I'm typical working point again is 25% return. This guy made more than that actually. I sold all at $95 and the stock currently is $103. And this share 52 week high $116. Again, I see the stock may tip back down first before you're driving the strength up to holiday season, which is Thanksgiving, Christmas again. Okay, so for those who are holding it for a long time, buying at $40 last year, you will have making 200% return on this stock. Next one, I really like this one as well. This one I actually will hold and recommend for long term, which is a little bit different than other stock that I recommend the most is shortly traded. XPEV. Over past 4 months, the stock has been swinging between $17.50 to $20. If you look at the chart right here to here, but for those of you who listen to video again, I recommend this one for long term. 52 highs, but during pandemic, the stock was as high as $65, just that a few years ago. And really, the stock have reported earning announcement with smaller, beating the market and smaller than expected losses. So the stock has gone up from $20 to $23.75 that closed it at. Okay, which is a very short-term turnaround. It's giving you about 20% return pretty much in one day. I told you before the stock around pandemic item was $65, and when this stock turn around and profit, you will at least double where it is right now. So this stock is a little more stable than other EV I'm looking at, which is NIO. You may have heard about NIO lately. The stock in April is only $3.50. It was also same. It was as high as $65 during pandemic when all these EV stock were hot and people were barely staying at home. And because of they were doing pretty well with one of the new automobile style they came out with, so the stock had pushed up and high and upgraded by analysts. So now it's like $6. So I bought it around $4 and I didn't hold a lot and sold them already. Again, something to think about: smaller amount of money to invest in this type of electronic vehicle. That's the future. I mean, the other one I like is the BYD, right? So the stock have really for that one is definitely for long-term investment. After the split, the stock have gone down quite a bit. So next stock I want to talk about before I talk about Chinese stock, back to Chinese stock, is robots. This is another one. For those who will follow me, she have made a lot of money. Of course, I sold it a lot earlier, like because I hold it for a longer term, and really it was from $40, and you got up to 80 and 90, and then $100. So sold them all everything in $100, just that you really, this is another stock giving you return more than 100% in a year, and you can look at the graph and you see that, right? I mean, it was about $50 of ranges, in same on the last year time frame. So it really, given the new infrastructure schools are off in summer, so it gave an advantage for the stock. So you beat the earning expectations after the earning announcement. The stock can rocketing from $110 and drum so a couple of times up to $150 and now scale it back because obviously school is open again. Probably not as many children, kids are going to play, but still, this stock, when you look at it, I will compare with Netflix. Think about Netflix is another great example. It was dropping $220 when a lot of analysts downgraded them for no reason and talking about, the stock was ridiculously overpriced. And now look at Netflix, $1,000. So sometimes you got to remember the analysts who giving all this advice and everything, and given at the time of the circumstance, every time when the market and the economy good or bad, they will make that type of assessment. It's very difficult to see the future, obviously, right? Right now, if somebody asks me what is the oil price I'm going to predict at the end of this year, just 3 months from now, I can't even tell you, right? You could go really higher than beginning of year, but you can actually go lower. So who knows, right? But I mean, if I can predict that, I'll be somebody, right? I won't be around really telling you. So, but then I'm using the best intelligence and the information I have, and I look at it in different ways that other than people just telling you everything. Like I said, they may heck a lot of money. They will never mention about the money they lose. So it's not very realistic, right? So going back to Chinese stock again, like they have been pretty bullish. Pinduoduo PDD has gone up to $120. Alibaba swing between $106 in July 10th to now $122. Alibaba has announced repurchase stock plan and continue to invest heavily on future AI. And BYD has stepped back again, just like I told you earlier, but I really still believe that they are still investing and they are still the largest battery producers other than CATL, which is another stock that have been doing IPO in Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Have been very bullish lately. So I mean, these stocks will be continue providing it. You got to think about next year, 2026. Right, going back to my video 2023, talking about EV at this point, 2025, it didn't gone up as much as I think those EV stocks, but they are gone up. And maybe next year, 2026, as the presence continue to be greater, and 2030, right? And then Elon Musk with this robot taxi, everybody can take that. You will think about this market presence. You will think about these stocks, how bullish they're going to be, right? So, of course, the flip side of it, the asset and all this stuff, so that's why they have to do a lot of testing. And in Asian market, I mean, like they have to be very intelligent. Otherwise, you'll sit there in the car for the whole day and still not get to where you need to be because of the traffic. So, with all that I'm saying, yes, I mean, there's a great potential there. And then Tencent stock also have gone up a lot. And again, because they make some video games and it was pretty good. So, okay, with that, I want to really introducing two new stuff for you to think about, and then an ETF for today's lesson. So there's a stock called Tesla Mineral Resources Corp, TMRC. You can go and Google it or research it and get a little more detail about it. I'm just giving you a really high level overview. So this stock has been $4.60 in 2020. The stock is struggled and dropped to 30 cents in 2024. This stock is not trading very high volume. If you compare the HILM, I think this is very a beginning phase, looks like HRM, but it will wrap up and do better in the future. Though I bought some around $1.35 and 95 cents perspective because it was $1.68, $1.80 is really, really high. $1.68 dropped down and was watching him come back down. So I bought at $1.35 level, but he continued to drop back to pretty much $1, below $1. I got that. And but now the stock have rebounded since the good news, right, from Friday. With potentially interest rate low going to be cut in September, so you gone up a little bit, now $1.07. So I still believe this stock have very good potentials. They signed the contract, and again, these contracts sometimes is a non-binding contract, and they don't. I mean, they only really have to match in different criteria statistic in order to really materialize a contract, and then we'll get the money into the door, right? And profitability. The other stock I want to talk about is you may have heard about rare earth material between US and China. So this stock symbol is USAR. This is another stock, you can take a look at that, and I think they also gained a contract lately, and so the stock will be having pretty, because of news to drive up already, but you can watch for it in the future. I think there's some opportunity there, but I normally not, as you know, I'm normally not going to tell you jump in the market. We'll let you watch a couple of days, and then when the market tipped a little bit lower, probably 5 to 10%, then and look for a day rebound, then I think it's worth buying it, because that way it's not keep tipping down, but that's really due to macroeconomic factor one not to drive it down, but then you come back up, so the stock does have momentum and have support. Okay, so the last one is this ETF, which is invented by Tom Lee. For those who listen to my video, knowing that I really recommend you to go Google it, listen to some YouTube video he has in Tom Lee in YouTube, and he actually you go to the figure. He's a fund strategist. He actually invented this fund. It was doing pretty well. If you look at it, basically in $17 roughly in April this year, and then you gone up to 23.50. So it's like 35% return, which the market again the index is about 22% lush. So actually you beat the market doing pretty well. And he have been a person who have been predicted correctly with Liberation Day when everybody panicked. He say, you know what, it's time to buy. You should buy a lot. And I do believe the fundamental, and then the index will rebound and go to record high again, which is really proving he's so true with the V-shaped recovery. And he actually have a video called V-shaped recovery hate or something like that. So it's very interesting. He also tipped it correctly during pandemic time. He say don't panic, the market will rebound and go back up in some industries and things will go well again, which actually he proved it himself very correctly. He also have some opinion about Tesla, which I think Tesla is a buy because of the infrastructure and the future vision about robotic. You will be a winner because when you have this strategy and technology, then you will be able to really kind of economic skills on producing everything that will be success from basically from Tesla factory. The other thing too is he also talking back on the Bitcoin, so you can definitely pay attention to him. In this market, again, I have sold 70% just for transparency purpose. I've sold 70% of what I'm holding right now in total. So I still have some, which is HILN, very little ACLS now. I sold them at $85, which I profit from them. I still believe it go to $100, but I don't want to hold that long. And I bought too much on that stock. Normally I don't buy a lot, so my heavy presence is still there. And I didn't buy any of this GLNY yet, but I do have some quite a bit of TMRC now, which is a future stock that I will invest on, thinking this is the opportunity. I don't United Airlines, Robots, I don't hold them anymore. I sold them, so I'll wait them to pull back to buy back. And then I do plan to Alibaba. I think if depending on the situation, I might buy a little bit more. I'm waiting for that. I do have BYDD quite a bit because I still think that's the future. I sold some XPEV profiting on Friday, but again, when you're coming back to below 20, we'll buy back again, and which is 20% return, roughly 15% return, and then I will wait for long-term XPEV. Hopefully they will upscale and win the economic scale. And a lot of these studies that I mentioned to you really is a very seasonal earnings sensitive. So once the season passes, you pretty much have to wait for 3 months again. I mean, in between, right? So you will buy it maybe a month or so later when these start hit the low end. Then you can profit very quickly when they have an earning announcement. And of course, microeconomic factors matter. So, sometimes if the small cap doesn't push, which lately the Mega 7 have been pushing very high, which I still recommend. Apple, that's the only one haven't been moved yet. But if you listen to my video, last time it was at 210 at the time I did it around that. Now it's $223, so 5% return already. The stock should break through $240 in valuations. But stock market is very funny. You can calculate and say how much it's worth, but it doesn't mean the stock really go in the territory. Some stock are definitely overpriced, but everything's still going up, then that makes you feel like you're missing opportunity. I don't look back as long as you profit from the stock and make the right decision. Have a nice and wonderful weekend. I hope everybody healthy and happy. Thank you.